thing. But do we allow sharing? Oh,
I will give myself sharing. I'll use two computers.
no, wait, I
You
can't.
gotta share your screen sharing. Gotta use Vim to start the Vim.
Which one is it?
He's at the 16, so you can Vim, yeah.
Okay, sorry, I just had a quiz that I left early, so I'm like still coming down from the quiz vibes.
Did it go well?
I mean, it wasn't really on the stuff that they told me it would be on, so
Oh, so they lied.
only not really that great, but it's always a lot of fun. Who knows? Okay. All right. Morning, everybody. If you don't know me, I'm JJ. I'm not even in software, but I really like Vim, so here we are. Okay. Does anybody know what Vim is? I feel like most people kind of know what Vim is. It's a text editor, so it's like Notepad on your computer, but better. It was created in like the 1980s or something as VI. It's super fucking old. And VIM, or VI improved, that's why it's called Vim, is the text editor of choice, sort of, that I use. So the thing that makes Vim kind of different is that you don't use a mouse with it. That's kind of like the whole thing. And you use a shitload of shortcuts. Also, I don't think I'm sharing that.
No, you're not. Can I have to share?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it sharing on
Oh,
Zoom?
it's not. One sec. It's confusing with so many
Oh, yeah.
things going. Yes. Okay. Okay, here we go. How to be Vim like the pros. So this picture here, that was us in the hotel room.
Like 3 minutes after we got there.
Yeah, we really started going right away. That's us programming the flight computer on a hotel TV. And this is where knowing Vim is pretty helpful because the Raspberry Pi that we had plugged into the TV didn't have a GUI. There was no desktop. You had to navigate everything by terminal. And that's what Vim is best at. So you'll know how to do that like well enough by the end of this, but you'll probably use it with the GUI anyways. So why should you know Vim? It's fast as fuck. Let's program really quickly. It's lightweight and it runs on everything, including like headless Linux installs. So those are things without a desktop environment. This doesn't really matter. So installation. I originally made these slides and included installation instructions for Windows. Installing Vim as its like own program in Windows is awful. I tried it out for a while, it's terrible. So I'm like not really going to recommend doing that. If you run Arch or Ubuntu, there's a strategy you can run to install it. I don't know if anybody does. But for what I really would recommend using, VS Code. It's like a very popular text editor, and it lets you install a Vim extension. So you get almost all the functionality of Vim built into VS Code. So that's helpful. And I think everybody's already done that. But for the sake of completeness and making this a decent YouTube video, there you go. That's how you do it. So everybody can go ahead and boot up VS Code or whatever you're using, and we'll get started. So to open a file in Vim, I kind of included this so that if you're ever, operating on a Linux computer or something that doesn't have a desktop environment installed, this is how you open files. So you just type Vim and then the name of the file, and that's all. In Windows, yeah, you can just right-click it, edit with Vim. VS Code, it's a text editor, so it's already got the file open, so no issues there. And if the file doesn't exist, typing that will create the file. So it's kind of a meme in, I don't know, the programming community, I guess, that it's really difficult to exit Vim. It doesn't really apply so much to something like VS Code because VS Code is like you just click the exit button and that's it. But I've pasted some files in Discord. So if you open that up, you can go ahead and download all of those. There's 3 files there. So I've got the air brakes one open right now. So this is old code that flew on our rocket. Unfortunately, written in Python. Yeah, so if you'll notice on my screen here, down in the bottom left corner, there's a normal. That's the mode that I'm in Vim. So Vim is what's known as a modal editor, where you can be in different modes depending on what keys you pressed. So in the modal editor, you can't actually, okay, well, I hit something there that let me type, but normally you can't actually type anything when you press keys on the keyboard because I'm in normal mode, which is sort of like the one that you put commands in. So from within normal mode, that's how you save and open files. So to save a file, you can see I've written it here. Within normal mode, :W will write a file, :Q will quit a file, and :WQ will write and quit a file. So I'll show you that right here. So if I type colon, see how it shows up there? That's my command line. If I type W, hit enter. So you can see it wrote however many characters and that many lines. If I type right Q, quits the file. Wrote it, quit it. Super easy. And that has to be from normal mode. To get to normal mode, all you have to do is hit escape. How's everybody doing so far? Good? We're all on track? Okay. So now you know how to open and close a file, and you don't need to be that guy on Stack Overflow asking how to quit Vim. You're already better than 4,700 other people who have the same question, apparently. Okay. Yeah, so like I said, Vim is a modal editor. There's 3 main modes that you'll use. Normal mode, that's where you hit escape. That's kind of like the default normal mode that you'll be in. That's how you type commands. So basically everything you do in normal mode, you type :, indicating that you're going to write a command, and then you type something. So 99% of the time, it's going to be write and then quit. Insert mode, that's like a normal text editor. If you press any of those keys and many more, you'll be able to type and input characters. So if we go back to Vim, VS Code, file again. You see how my cursor looks like a block? That's because I'm in normal mode. When I move the cursor around, I can't type anything. If I press I, to switch into insert mode, see my cursor turns into a regular cursor, and I can type things, just like normal. So go ahead and give that a whirl. So you should be able to type things fine. And you'll notice in the slides here, I've listed some other ways to enter normal mode. Shift I, or capital I, will let you insert at the start of the line that you're on. A will let you insert after your cursor. Capital A will insert at the end of a line, and so on. CW, what? What about O? Oh, there's so many. There's
O is
tons.
my favorite.
O is also very helpful. So try playing around with it. Wish I could have both. There, okay, you can see both at the same time now. So from within normal mode, remember that means hit escape. You can, for now, since we haven't really learned how to navigate, you can just click around with the cursor. And then, so see I'm on this line here. If I press Shift and then A, I'm appending on the end of the line. So this is kind of like where Vim gets really fast, because you can be anywhere on this line. Say I've navigated to here. I want to add a semicolon at the end of the line. Just like that. Shift A. Thank you, Chris. There we go. It's also Python. So we're learning all the semicolons, but you get the idea. Okay. So then the last mode is visual mode. And this is to emulate your mouse that you didn't have in the 1980s. So like how the hell did they select text back then? Well, they used visual mode. So by pressing V, and then I guess you guys still don't know how to move the cursor around. I kind of made this out of order, but you can use the arrow keys. So you can see I'm selecting text now. There's all sorts of weird selection methods, but we'll talk about those more later. Anyways, those are the three modes: normal mode, insert mode, and visual mode. So
apart from selecting text, what is different from visual mode?
So in normal mode, if I move the cursor around, it doesn't highlight anything. In visual mode, I start selecting things, and then I can delete them. That's the big thing, which we'll talk about in a sec here. So moving on, final mode. Everything you do in Vim, when you're done like typing stuff, press escape, because you don't want to be in insert mode and then try and like move the cursor around and start typing everywhere. So escape, go back to normal mode, and then you can do whatever you want. Okay, here we go. This is what makes everybody hate Vim and why they get confused and why they make Stack Overflow posts about how to exit Vim. It's the movement is very confusing at first, but once you get it, it's really fast and it's really good. So as you can see on the screen here, in normal mode, HJKL, that's how you move the cursor around. So give it a whirl. I actually included a fun.
It's like a maze.
Yeah. So I included a text file in the Discord there called maze.txt. So open that up. Probably see where I'm going with this. Oh, and as a side note, you always keep your hands on the keyboard like you would when you're typing properly. It's like your pointer fingers on the bumpy keys, the F and J. What are they called? Do they have a specific name?
No, it's just.
Oh, okay.
I just didn't notice that.
The which one? Yes, home row. Keep your hands on home row because you want to type really fast. So, okay. So I've created a lovely maze. I typed this out by hand. Well, it's very fast in Vim to type this kind of thing. So just another skill that you'll have with Vim to be able to make cool mazes like this.
On the spot.
So the goal with this here is exit the maze using nothing but H, J, K, and L because those are the movement keys. And if you notice, I included some helpful characters to show you how to move around even more quickly. So we've got W. You can see them, they kind of show up in some spots here. W and B, those are other navigation keys, of which there are like 1,000 in Vim. So you move around, and you'll see if I press W here, it moves me to the start of the next word. So you can remember it that way. W, word. All right. B is back, go back. So if I move down here and I press B, I go backwards. So it can get pretty quick. You see if I go W, B, and go back and forth. How's everybody finding the maze? Are they navigating?
Oh, yeah.
It's difficult. It takes a while to kind of figure it out. I'll leave this up on the screen so if you forget, you can just look at it. And everybody, you know, when I first started using Vim, I was like, who the hell picked these? Like the arrow keys are perfectly fine. They had those back then. What were you doing?
This was the choice.
The reason they do it like that is because when you're typing, you type fastest from the home row. If you were to navigate with the arrow keys, you have to take your hands off the home row. And that is precious milliseconds of your life that you'll never get back. And so if you just keep your navigation on HJKL, you can move around super quickly. And all you have to do is press escape to leave that. I Another thing to note, this is kind of just like an aside, but you might say that escape is kind of annoying to press, and that's something you have to press a lot. I'm pretty sure the escape key used to be where the caps lock key was or something on old keyboards, so it was okay. Something like that. Anyways. Okay. How's everybody doing? Moving around? Yeah. Yeah. All right. Did you find your way out?
I did.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'll move on then. This is kind of the hump of Vim, is you have to learn how to use the movement keys, and it sucks, but once you get it, then it's very fast. So
I still use arrow keys and I feel bad about it.
Yay. Okay, so here you go. Vim is all about hotkeys and shortcuts. So since your hands are always on the keyboard, you might as well make use of the like million keyboard shortcuts you can make on a keyboard. Here are sort of like the most useful ones in my opinion. These all take place from normal mode. So once you're in insert mode, these don't apply anymore because you're just typing at that point. So I'll leave this up on the screen and open up that airbrakes file or whatever the Python code and test some of these out and make sure that when you're done doing whatever you're doing, you go back into normal mode by pressing escape. But
It's just kind of funny that center on cursor, but you told us not to use a mouse.
no. Sorry, that was badly worded. Here's what I mean by center on cursor. So say I'm editing this file, I'm moving down. This is what I want to edit. It's not in the center of the screen.
Oh,
easy, centers the cursor on the screen.
That's wild.
Yeah, so super handy because it's annoying to like overshoot the screen and then come back. So you just use these. And the list goes on. There are websites with like literally 1,000 shortcuts on them. That's how many there are. I think. It's wild. Yeah, kind of the most important ones are like undo, redo, copy, paste, all those things. Most of the things in Vim will have like 2 versions of the same command, and you kind of see them here. It's like lowercase o and uppercase o will do roughly the same thing but slightly different. Or like GG will take you to the top of the file, whereas capital G will take you to the bottom of the file. So the commands are usually like kind of related. Sometimes they make sense, like X deletes a character under your cursor. X kind of makes sense. Other ones don't really make that much sense, kind of like ZZ. You think it'd like the computer to sleep or something, but it doesn't. So yeah, play around with those shortcuts a little bit. As an example, I'll show you.
Just show us how fast you are.
Okay, Chris, what do you want me to edit here?
Write the code for the new flight computer. Right?
Yeah, well, let me bang out a few thousand lines of C here. No, so say this is something I do a lot. Say I want to change this variable. I typed the wrong one. I type CW to change word, and I'm already inserting to type the new variable. So rather than taking the time to move your cursor with the arrow keys, whatever, selecting it with your mouse, maybe hitting delete, 2 characters on the keyboard, and you're already done. And you're typing the new name. Some other things to note, like all those other navigation shortcuts. So like Shift A will take you to the end of the line. Maybe you forgot a semicolon, just like that. Super quick rather than going hunting down the line, clicking at the end of it, or using the arrow keys to get to the end and then moving it down. What other shortcuts do I have in here? Oh, yeah. So in visual mode, like I talked about, that's kind of your equivalent of having a mouse. So say I wanted to delete this comment because comments are for losers. Don't comment your code, guys. All I have to do, Shift V, that will put me in line select mode. That's a visual mode, but it selects lines instead of just characters. I use the arrow keys, or not the arrow keys, the movement keys, and I can select these lines. And then if I look at my cheat sheet, I want to delete something, I just press D. Just like that. I want to delete this line. cheat sheet, delete line is DD. Gone. So you just move around, you're like, oh, all this code's garbage. Oh, Chris wrote this. Oh, get rid of that. Boom.
You wrote that.
Oh, shit. You got me, Chris. No. Yeah, so it's all about the shortcuts. My sort of, what I did when I first started learning Vim was I would do something anytime there was something that was like remotely repetitive, where I found myself doing just like a couple of times a day. I would look it up, I'd be like, how do I do this in Vim? And there's always a shortcut for it. It's wild. One of the things I really like is joining things. So if you ever split up a line or something to make it more readable or whatever, and then you decide you don't like it like that, you can join lines together, and that's capital J. So that will bring the line below up to the line that you're currently on, which might be super helpful. Like, say I want to make this one line, you do things like that. Oh, that actually works in Python, but you get the idea. Anyways, so shitloads of hotkeys. These are kind of just things that you don't really use that often, but they're kind of helpful regardless. Navigation from normal mode using colon. So if you just, you know how we type right quit to save something? Got my little colon there, I can type right quit, whatever. If I just type a number, it will jump me to that line number. So if you have an error in your terminal, like you compile the program, there was an error on line 56, just like that. On line 56, and you're sending it on the screen, you're ready to go, super quick. Other kind of stupid things, you can like repeat the same command 10 times in a row by typing a number before executing the command. So remember DD, that deletes a line. Well, if I type 10 DD, it deletes 10 lines. Or if I type, I don't know, like say I yanked this line, YY, and I want to paste it. Well, that's P. Okay, that's fine. What if I want to paste it 100 times? I just type 100 and then I hit P. And I just paste it 100 times, right? So I don't know, the uses of that are like kind of limited, but when you're making a maze, it's pretty helpful. So I don't know, maybe there's a point. Line count?
Yeah, gotta get up.
Oh yeah, yeah. I write a million lines of code a day. I don't know what everybody's playing, but last kind of thing that's helpful, I guess, on this slide is how you search for things. So from within normal mode, if you just type slash, then I can do like sleep. There, you can see it highlights it on the screen. I hit enter. You can see in the bottom corner, I've got 8 out of 15. I can just hit N to cycle through them. That's all. There's like, the rabbit hole is endless. If I want to search backwards, it's shift slash or question mark. And then I type sleep, and it searches up the file instead of down the file. It goes on forever. Like it's kind of wild. I hope I'm getting across like just how much there is to all the shortcuts in Vim and sort of why it can become very fast if you learn them all, or at least learn like 10 or 15 useful ones. I kind of talked about normal mode already, but there's actually 3 versions of, or sorry, visual mode. There's 3 versions of it. There's regular V, so that's standard. That's like if you were using a mouse. If I press V, then you can see if I move the mouse around, it's just like if I had a mouse and I was dragging it around on the screen. There's capital V, and that's line select. So I've showed you that already a bit. Shift V. Now it just selects lines. It doesn't matter where my cursor is. So that's very helpful if you want to select a bunch of text and delete it or something. And my favorite one, which works especially well in VS Code because of some setting that they have turned on in Vim, Control V. That's block select mode. So that lets you do weird things like this. So I don't know if you have ever seen text selection that looks like that. But the reason why it's fun is, I mean, you can do weird things like say I wanted to insert another space right here. I can enter insert mode while in block select mode by pressing I, and then start adding. Maybe I can't do that. Stand by. Oh, it only lets you do certain things like that. Okay, anyways, the thing I use this for all the time is commenting things. So if I go into line select mode by pressing Shift V, select a bunch of text, and then Shift I to insert at the start, I can comment a bunch of lines in one shot. Super helpful, I guess. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, so that's visual mode, kind of not that much to it. The reason you use visual mode is to select and delete text or to copy it with yank. Hotkeys, okay, here we go. The holy dot command. This is very important. So whenever you type anything in Vim, like a shortcut, it kind of like saves that command, I guess you could call it. Dot repeats the last command. So like, sure, whatever, that's all cool and all, but why would you actually want that? If you're good at setting up the way that you edit things, being able to repeat the last thing you did is super helpful. So here we go. I even have a scenario where it would be helpful. You just wrote the flight computer, it's all in Python, it was awful. And this year we're doing C, which requires semicolons at the end of the line, but you forgot that and you wrote a program and you forgot all the semicolons. So on a normal editor, I guess you go and like click the end of every line and type a semicolon, but not in Vim, because I want you guys to try this. It shows a nice workflow how to use the dot command. Press A, capital A, to append the end of the line. And then you type the semicolon because you're already in insert mode. And then you press escape to leave insert mode. And then go to the next line by using like HJKL in navigation. And press dot, because then it will append, put in a semicolon, and then exit and leave to normal mode instantly in one command. So I'll show you that. I mean, you guys already did it, hopefully. Shift A, semicolon, and then I can use dot all the way down. And then your Python becomes C magically. That's all it takes. It's the only difference between the languages. Okay, I had a thing in here on windowing. You kind of don't really need to do this in VS Code because it's kind of clunky. But yeah, if you're in the terminal, like we were on the hotel TV, if you'll notice in this picture, we have two editors and a terminal open at the same time. That can all be done from within Vim. And I think it mostly all works in VS Code. So I'll just show you an example, but from within normal mode, you basically just say Control W that says I want to window something, and I press V, then it will window it vertically. So now I have two terminals. If I do it again, I can window it horizontally, I think. Oh, maybe it won't let me do that many.
Doing your terminal, it just looks better in the terminal.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So if I do Vim, T, and then I do there, split the terminal, or split the, and then to switch between them, like I said, this is where it gets kind of clunky. You do Control W and then you navigate in the direction that you want to move. So I only have two open right now. Control W, and then I want to move to the side. So that's J. Yeah, L. So I press L, so now I'm on the other side here. Oh, it's a copy of the same file, so it's continuing the same way. Yeah, you can basically just keep going. The windowing never ends. I wouldn't worry too much about that, though. That's kind of just like a side note. Okay. In conclusion, the philosophy of Vim. This is important, so I'm going to go full screen. It's basically like the speed you gain in editing in Vim is because you don't have to take your hands off the keyboard. If you ever do any programming, just like count the number of times, take your hand off the keyboard, put it on the mouse, bring it back, take a second to find the home row, start typing again. It adds up if you do it constantly. With Vim, you just never take your hands off the keyboard, so you're always just speeding all the time. there's a shortcut for everything. So like I said, anytime you find yourselves doing something repetitively, look up, how do I do this in Vim? There'll be a Stack Overflow post on it, and it'll be amazing, change your life. Yeah, and then the final thing is Vim is an editor, so it can be customized like any other editor. There's like plugins and stuff for Vim that you can download. Most of the editing to the editor that you would do is in .vimrc file. That's like your preferences file for Vim. Doesn't really apply that much to like using VS Code too much. But anyways, just thought I'd include it. Finally, whenever you're using Vim, pay attention to like how you're doing things. You can use the arrow keys in Vim. You shouldn't, because that's not really the point. And anytime you're making edits, think about like, how can I do this in fewest number of commands? How can I set this up so that I can use the dot command to just like repeat the last thing I did, that sort of thing. And you'll be so fast at programming. I genuinely think that I'm like twice as fast at programming. I can spit twice as many garbage lines of code onto the GitHub as before. So I think that's all. You can code like the cool kids now. That's you, Chris.
That's me.
All right. Thank you. I hope you guys learned something. I know that was kind of just like a bunch of word vomit. But yeah, really try and stick with it though. Because like it'll be really slow at first. And then after like probably 4 or 5 hours of use, you'll be a lot faster than you're learning this. And then, yeah, 100 hours later, you'll be like 2 or 3 times faster than I guess. So thank you.
It's recording on that computer.
Yes.
I think you have to
Oh.
wait.